Go. Right. So the first thing, so let's come over. So I'm going to put all these other bits and bobs out of the way because you're probably going to need things tonight, okay? Have a really nice practice planned. Continuing on with the theme, we've been doing quite a lot of opening into the thoracics in this week's classes, and we have been looking at some back bends. So we're going to get to back bends in a moment. But first of all, we're going to, I'm just going to move my screen, we're going to do some spinal oscillations. Now, ideally with this, you could, if you've got it to hand, put an elastic band, like a hairband or a, an actual elastic around them so that you keep this as a tube, because I want this to go on your mat. And I'd like you to lie over it, roughly where your bra strap is, okay? So if it comes unrolled and it becomes annoying, I want you to go and grab something to tie it up with. I should have mentioned that before, and I thought to myself I should have emailed you all earlier so that you could get this ready. But this won't be the last time that we do this. So having a hand towel is often in the yin yoga kit, in the prescribed props list. So yes, this is just around about where your bra strap is. So sort of T, if you like, T6, T5 in your thoracics. Now I've got my knees bent. You could have your knees bent too, or if you find it tricky, you could have your legs straight with your heels on the floor. Now, arms are going to be out to the sides. Make sure that your head feels comfortable. It should be quite easy here. And what you're going to do is you're going to rock. You're not moving anywhere, but if you can see my feet, I'm using my feet. I'm just going forwards and backwards like that with my toes to create this little rocking sensation, so that I'm rocking my back over the hand towel. And these are called spinal oscillations, okay? And the thing about these is, so you get a little bit of a rhythm going. I'm going to come and have a look at you all in a minute doing this. So you could do this with the knees bent, and some people will find that more easy. So feet on the floor, knees bent, and you're staying on one spot, but you are literally just rocking backwards and forwards, okay? And these spinal oscillations, so the pelvis stays down on the ground, the back of the shoulders stays down, the head stays down. This is designed to release the vertebra and to create a little bit of space, but also the sensation, the pressure here is also going to bring an increase to the blood flow to these parts of the body. And I thought we would put these in today because if you're like me, I practice my yoga really regularly anyway, but I do like to have either a treatment, like a core treatment from my friend, or I go and see an osteopath or something just to kind of straighten out, get rid of any kinks, kind of get my spine mobilized. I really find it helpful. And I've noticed, over the last few weeks, movement is starting to become a little bit stiffer, or my hip is starting to be a bit niggly, and I know I'm ready for some hands-on treatment. And so this is self-care, okay? So what you're doing by this rocking forwards and backwards is self-care for your spine. And you might find this is a really pleasant thing to do, okay? It might feel a bit weird at the moment, but when you come out of this, or maybe when you wake up tomorrow, you might be thinking, yeah, actually, I'm really quite glad that I did that. Okay, so we're going to spend maybe just 1 more minute in this position, and then we're going to shuffle our bodies. Actually, we'll move our bodies just a little bit higher, and we'll carry on. So the hand towel has got a bit lower over the lower back, to sort of T7, T8 maybe. All right, so just a couple more of these, couple more breaths of being here. Rocking up and down. Good. And then when you feel ready, and in fact, actually, this is as much your practice as it is my practice. So you decide if there is a bit of tightness lower down in your back, then shift yourself so that the hand towel is lying across that area. And if there's tightness in your upper back, maybe you're carrying a bit of tension in your shoulders, maybe move, but you're not, I don't want you to move very far from where you were, okay? So it's literally just the next vertebra along is where I want you to go. So it's maybe an inch, let's say, let's shuffle an inch in either direction. And so then you're going back again, you're rocking, 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 forwards and backwards, and it's quite fast. It's like tap, 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 tap. If you're thinking about the movement, I want it to be as fast as that. So it's not just a slow going forwards and back and a leisurely undulation of the spine, but faster. Okay, so rock, 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 rock. That's it. Good. You're all getting there. Well done. Okay, so these little oscillations are just going to create mobility and space for your spine. The other day, I always carry a lot of tension in my shoulders and my neck and my jaw. It's where it all goes. I've got classic kind of startle reflex, you know, fight or flight, and you go straight into that area. And so the other day, I'm just going to tell you this story because it's interesting, and because, you know, our own self-care practice doesn't, you know, it can take many shapes and forms. So I had the dining table clear of stuff and a blanket lying on the edge of the table, and I was laying on my tummy on the table and then kind of falling off of the edge of the table. So my head, my shoulders and all of my upper body, so the edge of the table rested where my hips are, and I just dangled over the edge of the table just to create a bit of space and a bit of you know, a bit of traction for my spine, just let my head kind of hang like a really lovely upside down hanging, but I don't have that luxury of a bar or something to hook my legs over. And it does, it makes a lot of difference. Just put some space back in and help, because you know, we all carry our tension and our issues in our tissues in different ways. Okay, so you're going to make one more move now. So whether you keep going in the same direction as you were, as you have gone, just moving one more vertebra down, okay, or one more vertebra up, depends which way you are going, and then it's back to your little rock, rock, rock. So it's you're going up and down your spine, okay, so up and down, up and down. So Madeline, I don't want to see your knees rocking side to side. See if you can go up and down across the hand towel, so that you get this like a seesaw. Okay, so you're sort of seesawing, like you kind of got it, like the hand towel is a bit like a rolling pin, but you're upside down on it. Okay, and you're just rocking over it, forwards and back, forwards and back. Okay. So yeah, I think I find it easier to do this with my legs straight. So my heels are on the floor, and the only thing I'm thinking about moving are my feet, my toes. So I'm literally just rocking my toes forwards and back, forwards and back, forwards and back. And when you have more time available to you, maybe you're thinking, yeah, I could do doing this some more, and you want to spend a good half an hour doing this there, and you could treat most of your spine. Obviously, when you get down into your lower back, you probably will need to bend your knees so that you can flatten your lower back against the floor a little bit more easily, and just see how it goes, see how it feels. All right, so as a way of, as a self-care thing, I quite like this. I quite like these spinal oscillations, and they fall very nicely into the somatic way of moving. So, but all of this maybe for another time. Okay, so when you're ready, we're going to maybe just stay here for 3 or 4 more breaths. Okay. Couple more breaths. And then what I'd like you to do is come to a stop, bend your knees gently. Maybe if you can lift up and use your hand to slide the towel out or roll off a bit and move it out of the way. And then just very briefly, just lie down so that we can feel the rebound of this. And the rebound might just be felt in a more of a looseness, maybe. Maybe the shoulders feel a little bit more comfortable. Maybe turn the head from side to side and see how that feels in there. All right. Okay, so we're going to gently bend the knees and roll over to one side, and we're going to come up to sit for a forward folded butterfly position. And so I'd really encourage you to sit on something here, unless you're very flexible in your forward folds and you're very, very comfortable. I like to sit on quite a thickly folded up blanket here. And I don't want your feet, your heels too close in towards your body. I want them to be in a nice loose diamond shape. You could have them right tucked in here, but I want you to be a little bit softer. This is more hamstrings rather than real juicy hips. However, before we come down into the pose, maybe just lean forwards and walk your sit bones back. Just a little bit of a shuffle back with the sitting bones so that the forward folds feels more natural, and then you can come up to sit. Now, if you find that this is going to be uncomfortable, either maybe it's you don't feel too sure about this in the knees or in the thighs, then you could put a cushion or a rolled up blanket or something like that underneath your knees like this. So you could slide into this and then you could come and fold forwards, all right? Or the other alternative is you could put bricks maybe underneath the outer thighs. But the other alternative is sometimes to put your support on the top of your legs. And then you've got this there to rest your tummy or rest your rib cage against. Some of you might prefer the cushions or the bolster to be long ways away from you. And I quite like this. I quite like to give this a hug like this and fold forwards towards it and just let my head drop onto it. So there's no pressure here. I don't want you to find a particular shape necessarily. I just want you to be able to relax forwards. And all that lovely space that you've put into the spine with those oscillations, you're now going to be able to enjoy the benefit of as you curve your spine forwards. Okay? You're right, Gina, you're looking at the screen like wondering what to do. So feet together, knees in a diamond, and folding forwards is basically it. So you don't have to use any props at all. If you want, you can come all the way forwards and rest your head into your feet. You know, that's if you've got that degree of flexibility. Some people like to make fists to rest their head onto. Some people like to put a brick in between their feet, for instance, and fold forwards and rest their head onto the brick. Okay, so there's loads and loads and loads of ways of adapting this. All right, so don't think that, you know, I always give a couple of versions, but there is no reason why you can't experiment with your own. All right, with your own little versions. And it might be you know, you might have a headache this evening, for instance. It might have been a long day, or you might not have drunk enough fluid today, and you might have a little bit of a tension headache, and therefore I would recommend resting your head on something when you forward fold, just so that you're not putting too much pressure into the flexion of the neck, and just having something to rest the frontal bone onto, the forehead, is actually very soothing, very calming for the mind, for the brain. Okay, so obviously this is your practice, and part of this journey of the practice is listening in to your body and taking notice when it's asking you to do something or asking you not to do something. Can you take care of yourself? We often think about the fact that, you know, we've showed up, we've turned up, and that's taking care of ourselves. But the care happens within the practice as well. We have to keep listening to the communication the body makes. Okay. So maybe a focus for your breath whilst you're here, and you're going to be here for maybe 2 more minutes. So if you need to come out sooner, you're very welcome to. You can just come and lay down on your back when you're ready to release the pose. 2 more minutes of breath work, please. I want you to think about your breath traveling from the forehead down the back of the spine as you breathe in, all the way down to your tailbone. And then as you breathe out, the breath is going to travel back up the spine and ends at your forehead, wrapping itself around the top of your head. Okay, so just think about it. Sometimes it's quite nice to imagine a little dot. That little dot could be a dot of light, and watch the little dot traveling in the direction that you want it to take, down the spine on the inhalation and then up the spine on the exhalation. You can do this for 1 more minute now. Okay, so taking 1 more breath here and letting the breath visualization fade. And then you can slowly release the pose. And like I said, come over onto your back, please. And that's because when we come out of the pose, I want you to appreciate and to enjoy the rebound. Okay, we're going to talk about the rebound. So maybe release your legs, slide your legs away from you, rest your hands down by your sides. And then wherever you're feeling or experiencing sensation upon the release of the pose, that's the rebound. Okay, and there's no right or wrong in the sensations that you may or may not be feeling. And there's no one place. You might be feeling these rebounds in different places for different on different days. So yeah, so think about that and just enjoy those sensations. Now, in the previous pose, we folded forwards and we thought about the spine a lot. So we're putting stretch and length and space into the back body. And in order to find that lovely length, we had to compress or shorten the space on the front body. And this compression is something we're going to think about in a little bit more detail in the rest of the poses that we're going to practice tonight. So I'd like you to lift yourself, so bend your knees, roll to one side and come up to a seated position. And we're going to take a seated twist. I'm going to take tiger in the tree, or twisting tiger. And so we're going to sit with ourselves facing to the side. So I've got my knee, I've got my top thigh is parallel with the top edge of the mat, and I've got my bolster here. So you could use a couple of thick cushions, wrap them up in a blanket if you don't have a bolster. But you can also ditch the props again. You don't have to use any props at all. You can do this prop free. So I'll show you it both ways. I've got my legs crossed in a bit of a zigzag. Where these go is entirely up to you. And I'm going to turn to twist towards the bolster or towards the support. So I'll show you it with, and then I'll show you it without for those of you thinking about doing it without. So when we sit up, we're going to breathe in and breathe up the spine. We're going to lift the pelvic floor a little bit. And then as we breathe out, we're going to turn to face the bolster, and you can turn your head away, or you can keep your head in the same direction as your knees, just while your body releases into the position. And then when you feel ready for deepening it, you can lift up and turn a little bit deeper. Without the bolster, without any support, so I just move that over there a little bit so you can still see, is exactly the same. You're just coming down to the floor. You might find that you find this a bit more relaxing. It's quite nice for the shoulders. You're just coming down to lie on the floor. Where the arms go is entirely up to you. You can explore, you can experiment. But so yeah, prop up if you want to stay a little bit higher, or lose the props if you prefer. And yeah, make sure that there's space for those little babies. Okay, let's have a look. Good. Okay. So our target area in this pose is the spine, and a little bit into the hips as well. And you might be feeling this in different places. You're right, Lauren. Do you know what to do for the next pose? Okay, so we're coming, so I want you to make sure that you've got space for your tummy, okay? And then you're going to turn to face your pillows and lay down over them so your legs are still out to the side, and then you can keep your head in the same direction as your knees. But if you want to turn it the other way, you can do. Just make sure there's plenty of space for your tummy and that you're not resting too heavily onto your abdomen. Okay, so yeah, so we're thinking about the target area of the spine and this lovely rotation within the spine, which might also be being felt in the hips, may also be being felt in the legs. However, I want you to also think about the areas of your body that are experiencing the sensation of compression. We often think of our yin practice as putting length and stretch or space into the body. And whilst that's absolutely true, there also has to be the opposite action happening somewhere in the body. And so sometimes in the poses, especially some of the ones we will work at from now on, our target area can also be an area that is experiencing compression. So think about the spaces in your body that are feeling closer together, okay, that you've shortened the spaces between them. And see what it feels like to sit your attention in there. All right. I'm going to stay here for another 2 minutes. So if you need to come out sooner, you can do. If you've been in this pose, in this position, and you feel ready to go a little bit deeper, by all means, lift yourself up and come a little bit deeper on an exhalation, making sure that your pelvic floor is lifted. You may do that at any stage between now and the next, 90 seconds of being in this pose. you may find that when you direct your attention into the areas that are feeling compressed, that you create some space because your attention is there. I'm not saying that that's the right thing or the thing to expect to happen, but it might happen. Okay, be aware that if it does happen, that's quite a nice thing. Don't panic if it hasn't happened. It might just be the intensity, or it might just be where you're at this evening. Just going to take 2 more breaths, please. All right. And so we are going to peel ourselves, so use the hands to support you as you lift yourself up. Good job. No rebound in between. We're going to shift the feet or the legs over to the other side, and we're going to come straight into the pose, twisting the other direction, okay? So I'll let you do that at your own time. Remember to come into the pose on an exhalation. Do encourage a little bit of lift to the pelvic floor, which will just help to stabilize the lower back region. We don't want a lot of twist in the lower back anyway. It's not designed to twist very deeply there. I think you've got about 4 or 5% rotational ability in the lumbar spine. They're big vertebra, they're big thick vertebra, and they're there for a reason, and that's weight bearing, it's load bearing. Whereas up in the thoracic spine, where I want you to really think about getting some mobility, so think about your rib cage turning, you're turning. Don't let your shoulders do all of the work. Encourage the twist to come from the center of your body. And the thoracics, you've got about 40% rotation, so massive, massive difference. However, we've all heard of people that have got, you know, bones that have fused together or locked together, or they just, you can see it in their movement, you know, their lack of mobility. Whereas this part of the body is a very, very mobile part of the spine. So allow your breath to be there. Breathe into these lovely sensations that you're creating, and if you want, go back into the sense of that sensation of compression, and think about that as being your target area for this pose. Where does it feel that you've shortened the space? What does it feel like if you direct your breath into there? Okay, I'm going to stay here for another 2 minutes. Alright, so just 1 more minute of being here. If you want to go that little bit deeper, invite that in if you wish. Maybe you just want to turn your head in the other direction. That can sometimes be quite a nice thing to do, even if it's turning your head back in the same direction as your knees. All right. So thinking about returning from the pose, and we will take a rebound. So you're going to come up and you're going to lie down with your knees bent. So use your hands to support you. Push your bolster or anything out of the way. Lay yourself down and maybe just take the feet as wide apart as the mat. Turn the toes in ever so slightly towards each other and let the knees fall in so that the knees come together. So you've got a little bit of a tent pose, if you like, to the knees, tent position. This can sometimes release tension out of the lower back. It can let some of the muscles of the lower back release, but I also like it because it makes my sacrum really press into the floor, and I like that sensation of it feeling quite grounded. And that comes for me when I turn the toes in just ever so slightly. It creates that little sensation difference. Okay, so let your spine settle and notice where you're feeling sensation or release. Because often the work of the pose happens once we've come out of it in the yin practice. The hard work is when you're in it often, but the release or the sensation of the release is best felt as we leave the poses. Okay, so you're going to be pleased, I think, to know that the rest of the class is pretty much going to be lying down. However, I do want you to roll to one side and come up to sit, albeit briefly, because I'd like you to get a hold of a couple of things, first of all. So I want you to get your blanket, please. And this does need to be a thicker blanket, so it's not your hand towel this time. But I want you to roll your blanket up into quite a thick, and this is why I like these cottony blankets, because there's a density to them, which means that they're pretty sturdy. And then that's going to go across the mat. You could use your bolster for this, but you probably will need to support your head. However, you're going to come down onto it, and again, it's sort of in the middle of your thoracics, across across the shoulder blades, but I've got space for my arms to be over the top, so it's not quite as high as the top of my armpits. I am going to lay down over it, and sometimes when I come down into this, the head feels too far back or dropping too far back, so I might need something else underneath my head so that I can be really comfortable here. And then I might slide my feet away from me eventually. So I've got this quite a deeper back bend now than what we were doing previously. Again, this is one to just luxuriate in. This is one to maybe think about breathing into the tummy, into the belly, into the lower abdomen, and seeing what that feels like, because that can be quite challenging in this position. Okay, so coming down. So you want quite a big, if you like, as deep a back bend into the thoracics as you feel that you can sustain. Unless, of course, you're carrying an injury that I'm not sure of, or there's a restriction there, a tightness that you know you're in the same boat as me. Maybe you're waiting to go and see somebody who can maybe release this tightness away. However, so once you're here, you've got an opportunity to open the shoulders, the collarbones are nice and wide. Maybe take the hands a little distance away from the sides of your body. Turn your palms upwards towards the ceiling. That's it. And make sure that the head feels comfortable, that the neck is not too far back, that the throat is not overstretched. Okay. So initially we thought about breathing into the tummy. Now think about breathing into the low ribs. See if you can inflate the bottom of the lung space with your inhalations and your exhalations. And then for the next 5 or 6 breaths, I'd like you to breathe into where your collarbones are. Feel the breath moving not only into the upper part of the chest, not just the front, but also think about the breath moving into the shoulder blades as well. So it's the whole 360 degree area of the upper part of the lungs, not just the front of the body. Encourage the jaw to be relaxed and for the tongue to rest at the top of the mouth. Okay. You're going to take a couple more breaths, please. And the best bit about being here, again, is the coming out, is the rebound. So slide your feet towards you, bending your knees. Chin towards your chest, roll to one side, push away the blanket and any other support, and then lay back down. Enjoy the rebound. Enjoy that lovely deliciousness of your body, your spine, your shoulders sinking as the mat greets the back of your body. Okay. And then we're going to move into my favorite little sequence of yoga poses. We're going to do 3 yoga poses back to back. And for this, you're either going to need that rolled up blanket, or you could use your bolster, and it's going to go across your mat again. So I'm using my bolster, it's a little bit higher up, but a blanket or even a couple of blocks would do just as well. You're then going to lay down over it with your hips onto, so it's like a supported bridge pose. Okay, so imagine bridge, we normally lift up the hips quite high for bridge. So this is just a softer variation on that. And the back of the hips do need to be supported. We're going to spend 2 minutes in each of the next 3 poses. So I'd like you to start off by taking your feet up into the air, please. So we're coming into bamboo garden first of all. And you're very welcome to do some leg movements here. So once you get yourself, you should be able to have your feet in the air effortlessly. Okay, so it is a bit of it's almost a forward fold. You've got some flexion here at the hips. The other day when we practiced this, we let the legs really fall towards us, do you remember? And if you want to do that, if you're looking for a deeper leg stretch, hamstring stretch, I mean, you can hold on to your feet and draw them in towards you, that's fine. Some of you, however, would just quite like to have your feet in the air, and you could do some circles in the air with your toes, or anything you like, anything that feels good. Some of you might like to get an inner thigh stretch if you haven't had much of one and that yet so far, and you feel that you would like one. So you could let your legs drop into a V shape and hang with that position. Okay, and by all means experiment with where you want to go, but do have the intention of having the feet, the legs fairly upright, the legs fairly straight. We're going to get to bending the knees in a minute. All right, so don't be in a position with the knees bent just yet. Arms can be above your head. So if you would like to be a little bit more energetic, if you like, or create more space into the sides of the ribs, that sort of thing. I'm just going to come and have a look at you all. Yes, that's what I like. Lots of feet in the air. Well done. Okay. All right, so a couple more breaths here. We'll stay here for maybe 4 more breaths, please. We will return to this position in a few minutes' time. However, we will come into our next position, which retains the same support, but you're simply going to bend the knees now, and you can either hold, you want your knees as wide apart as possible. So this is happy baby pose, but supported. Okay, so you've got a little bit of a back bend shape going, a little bit of an inversion. So you can either gently hug the back of the thighs, or you can reach your hands to your feet. Now your feet need to look like they're standing on the ceiling, and the knees should be bent, sort of the ankles should still be above the knees. So you don't want your feet down here. That's not the pose, okay? But if you take your arms to the inside of the thighs, but then the hands go across the top of the foot to hold the outside of the feet. And you're just going to rest here for the next 2 minutes. So go back to the awareness of compression and think about, are you compressing your body? And is that the target area here? It might be different. It might be that the target area becomes the lower back or the hips. And we've got quite a nice intensive stretch into the glutes. But also there is that sense of that compression into the front of the hips, around where the ASIS, the bony part on the front of the hip or the front of the pelvis. So it might be that there's a sense of compression there, which can sometimes be quite pleasant. It's quite soothing to have this shape. If we've got a bit of tummy ache going on, if we've got a bit of backache, for instance, these kinds of shapes can be quite soothing. However, we talked on Sunday in the previous Yin class about the different types of compression. So it could be that it's skin on skin, or one body part resting against another body part. That's a type of compression. But then it could be that you are, it could be joint capsules or joint spaces that are getting compressed, or it could be even that you've reached the end range of your mobility, and it's bone on bone that is compressing. Not that there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. It just means that you have reached the end of your body's range to be able to take the pose. So this is what happens with people when they're very, very flexible. They often reach that end range of their mobility very, very quickly, whereas the rest of us mere mortals, it takes us much longer to get to those shapes. Okay, so compression can be quite nice. It can feel quite nice, but it can also feel quite nice to come out. So release your feet or your legs And take the legs straight up to the ceiling to experience just a little bit of a rebound for a moment. And how does that feel? And then bending the knees, dropping the feet to the floor, the other side of the bolster or the cushions, and then slowly walking the feet away from you. And when the feet or the legs get long, I want you to just lift your, don't have them too full a stretch, but just sort of push your cushions away from you slightly, just so that it drags the flesh of your bottom down towards the end of the mat away from you, just to put a little bit of space in your lower back. And then you can come into a leg straight. Now, the target area here is the front of the hips, because often when we do back bends, we want to stretch the front of the body. And whilst when I say to you, we're going to do a back bend, you're often going to be thinking about the back of your body. And the back of the body is in a state of compression here. We have shortened it, and we can often explore our limit of motion, because the spine is only so mobile that it will allow for a certain range within the back bend, before it literally is bone on bone that is touching, and you just cannot go any further. And it's always wonderful, isn't it, to watch. So you might want to take your arms alongside your ears, and you're in this full, lovely, long body stretch with the support underneath you. The support could be blocks, it could be a couple of thick cushions, it doesn't matter what it is. But you've got that sense of really lovely length happening. If this becomes too strong or too much, bring the arms back down by your sides, or bend your knees and have your feet on the floor instead. You're still in your back bend, but just not without the intensity of it. Okay, so close your eyes and think about the area of your body which is experiencing compression, and what sort of compression it is that you may be feeling. As I was saying, it's always wonderful, isn't it, to watch gymnasts when they are performing these beautiful shapes, the back bends, or contortionists when they fit themselves into small boxes and that sort of thing. And it literally is, it's the way that our skeleton, we have a certain amount of range within our body's capability, but and some of it is to do with how we've been brought up, but a lot of it is what is quite literally what we've been born with. And some of these people, we should have, most of us have got 24 vertebrae in our spine. Some people only have 23 or 24. And because they've got less vertebrae in their spine, they've got much more mobility or flexibility to do back bends and to do crazy shapes. So when maybe you're looking at these people and thinking, oh, I'd never be able to do that, or I don't think I could, well, quite literally, maybe it's because they've got less bones in their body than the rest of us. All right, so you're going to stay here for 1 more minute. All right. And so when we're ready to come out, float your arms back down by your sides. And then bending knees gently. I want you to push your bolster or supports further away from you so that they rest underneath the back of the knees. Then you can cover yourself with a blanket if you wish to. We're not going to be in Shavasana very long because, like normal, I don't want you to fall asleep here. So I want you to be able to wander off and go and get really nice and sleepy in your bed rather than falling asleep. So if you know that you are at risk of falling asleep right now, I want you to come up to sit. However, those of you that are able to lie down, have a lie down. We're just going to be in a very brief Shavasana, but this will also be your rebound. So maybe enjoy the sensation now that you've brought a little bit of flexion back into the hips, the front of the hips, rather than the extension. Then see how that feels. Maybe how there might be a sensation of warmth that radiates from this area that spreads itself around. If you're upright, just sit in any comfortable seated position that works for you, and rest your hands somewhere into your lap and close your eyes. Those of you that are lying down, allow your shoulders to release, the spine to sink a little bit closer towards the earth, and the back of your head to feel heavy. And everyone, release your jaw and let your tongue rest gently, maybe behind the top teeth. Feel your shoulders moving away from your ears. And let your breath move freely in and out of your body. As you breathe in and out, notice please the mobility of your spine. Can you observe how your spine moves to facilitate the breath? And how by keeping the spine mobile, practicing yoga regularly as you are doing is going to help with your breathing. I want you to notice also how calm and relaxed you feel. And so this kind of focused practice not only benefits on a physical level, but on our overall well-being, on our mental, emotional level. So just taking another few breaths here. Maybe deepening those breaths as you prepare yourself for coming back, coming out, coming upright. Okay. So be aware of fingers and toes if you're lying down, and give them a little bit of a wiggle around. Turn your head from side to side. And then take a stretch out or move any way that feels good. Well done. When you feel ready, bend your knees and roll yourself over to one side. And gently make your way round and up to sit when you're ready. Good. I don't mind how you sit to finish your practice, whether you want to kneel or whether you want to sit cross-legged. It's your choice. And you're going to take hands down by your sides. And we'll take a breath in, bring the hands all of the way up above the head, palms come together, and then as you exhale, bring the hands down to your heart. Let the head fall forward slightly, allowing the jaw to relax, the shoulders to soften, the eyelids to close again. And breathing in and breathing out. And staying in this wonderfully soft, calm space with the intention of taking it with you and letting it infuse the rest of your evening and the day to come tomorrow. Taking another breath in, opening your eyes. Well done, everyone. Namaste to you all. And have a very lovely rest of the evening, whatever you do.